Hi and welcome to today's tax update, brought to you from the south coast of England at the Brighton Palace Pier. In today's webcast, we will cover the most important tax developments for June 2019. So let's move inside and start our webcast. June has been a relatively quiet month with regards to tax developments, especially on the legislative front. We have, however, tried to pick up some interesting announcements that took place during this month, both locally and internationally. We will start by looking at the local announcements. As with every year, the 31st of July is the deadline for the electronic submission of the personal tax return by salaried individuals whose gross income exceeds €19,500. As it was announced by the tax department, significant changes have been made to the 2018 personal tax return to make it more user-friendly and reduce the time required for completion. The return has also been available in the TaxInet system since March, which is much earlier than previous years. For all taxpayers whose last year submitted their tax return electronically via TaxInet, the fields will be pre-filled with all the information, with the exception of the income or allowance amounts, therefore reducing the time required for completing the tax return significantly. We would like to remind you that the payment of the tax balance for the tax year 2018 is due on or before the 31st of July 2019 and can only be paid electronically via the JCC Smart website. Payments after this date will bear interest and penalties and can only be made by visiting the local district tax office. Moving on to international developments. An announcement was recently issued by the tax department that Cyprus is in the process of negotiating with the United States of America with a view to concluding a bilateral competent authority arrangement for the exchange of country-by-country reports as provided under BEPS Action 13. In accordance with the OECD, as of May 2019, there are over 2,100 bilateral exchange relationships activated with respect to jurisdictions committed to exchanging country-by-country reports. There was also another announcement of the tax department relating to financial institutions that an extension has been granted to the reporting deadline for FATCA and CRS purposes. The reporting deadline has been extended from the 1st of July to the 8th of July 2019. On the 12th of June 2019, the European Council published an overview of the preferential tax regime examined by the Code of Conduct Group since its creation in March 1998. The overview concludes that the Code of Conduct Group has examined 638 preferential regimes, 254 of which were deemed harmful. Moreover, the European Council announced its decision to remove the Dominican Republic from the EU list of non-cooperative tax jurisdictions, as the country has implemented its commitments and addressed EU concerns with regards to automatic exchange of financial information. As a result, the following 11 jurisdictions remain on the EU list. Moving on to some BEPS-related developments, the OECD has recently announced that it has expanded the functionality of its multilateral instrument matching database. The database is a tool developed by the OECD which provides data extracted from the list of reservations and notifications provided by each MLI signatory. It essentially uses the stated positions of MLI signatories to project whether and how a tax treaty between any two signatories will be modified by the convention. It is designed to help countries and taxpayers figure out how the latter signing of the MLI affects bilateral tax treaties between countries. The database now includes information on entry into effect dates for matched agreements and the option to calculate entry into effect dates based on the anticipated dates of deposit. We will close off today's tax update with a brief reminder of the deadlines coming up. The 30th of June is the deadline for the payment of the tax balance for the tax year 2018 through self-assessment by self-employed individuals who do not prepare audited financial statements. It is also the deadline for the payment of FTC on rents, dividends and interest from sources outside of the Republic for the first 6 months of 2019. As the 30th of June falls on a weekend, the due date is transferred to the first working day after the deadline, which in this case is Monday, 1st of July. The 31st of July is the deadline for the electronic submission of the 2018 personal tax return by salaried individuals whose gross income exceeds €19,500 and for the payment of any tax thereof. It is also the deadline for the electronic submission of the 2018 employer's return and for the submission of the 2019 provisional tax return, together with the payment of the first provisional tax installment. Lastly, we would like to remind you that the 1st of August is a deadline for the payment of the 2018 tax balance through self-assessment by self-employed individuals and companies preparing audited financial statements. As with all payment deadlines, interest and penalties will arise only after the lapse of a complete month from the original due date, meaning that payments can be made throughout August without any interest and penalties. This concludes our tax update for this month. Thank you for watching.